Yo, what's good, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be doing a macro breakdown of Haven. Haven is making its way back into the rotation in the next 2 weeks or so, and it's been a while since I've done one of these macro videos, and I figured this would be the perfect time to do one. And really, the goal of this is to kind of identify choke points, talk about why the map is being played the way that it's played, or the way that it was played at least, and kind of understand the logic behind the positioning and decision makings that go on with the standard comp that's played on this map. Um, so generally, when I do these videos, and by the way, there's a playlist of these videos. I'll make sure to include Haven in that as well. If you haven't taken a look at the other maps that I've completed, go ahead and take a look at those as well. If you're struggling on some of those, I think it's a very useful resource. Um, so what I like to do is I will start all of these videos the same way by identifying choke points. Okay, and so what I do is I like to go from the barrier and I'll identify how many choke points there are if you go C. So there is a single choke point if you go C. If you go garage, there is a single choke point going up to garage, but also entrance into garage window. Okay, and then I'll mark these. So this is a single, this is a double, and then B, obviously this is a single, and then A is a double. Okay, so boom. Now, what's really important with this, guys, so let me mark this as a double. Okay, generally on most maps, there's going to be at least two areas that are very important for control. And for the defense, there can be a multitude of reasons for this. Okay, one important thing is the orb. Okay, if you can secure the orb by controlling a certain area on defense, a lot of times you want to do that because it means that you're usually going to have the ult economy in your favor. Okay, now the other reason would be that you're able to limit options for the enemy team. Okay, so now when you look at Haven here, we see that C is a single choke point, barrier to choke point, access point. Most teams don't prioritize defending long C aggressively. They might mix in a couple walkdowns in the late round, but they don't generally put 2 to 3 players here fighting long C at the start of the rounds. Doesn't happen. What they do instead with C is they'll make sure that somebody's on this deep line. Okay? And deep lines are important because they give us early information on whether or not somebody is trying to take this space. Early information is important because it influences the way that our teammates will rotate to us or away from us. Okay, so it's very common that you will see an Omen player jump spotting, jiggling this, or jump spotting here, and then TPing out. Okay, this is very common, right? So teams on Haven will prioritize the deep line down long C. And real quick, before I move on to the next choke, I want to talk about deep lines and why they are so important in Valorant. Okay, and specifically to Haven and Lotus. Okay, Haven and Lotus are the 2 3 bomb site maps in the rotation. Okay, and because of that, because of you're on defense, you have 5 players and you have 3 bomb sites to watch. That means that you're always going to have, lack the advantage on at least one of the sites defensively, and you're going to have to play light on them. So what most teams like to do, and let me just erase this stuff here, is they'll like to get into position where they can have a deep line on one extremity and ideally a second deep line on the other extremity. Okay, so this is the second deep line that teams will like to prioritize. Okay, and so the reason for this, again, guys, is to get early information on whether or not the enemy team is going towards you. Okay, now this isn't always the case. There's also sometimes a little bit more involved. Okay, now, the reason why you want early information is so that you can rotate, your teammates can rotate to you or away from you based on the information that you gather. Okay, so a lot of times what you'll see on Haven is you'll see this kind of setup. Most teams will call a 1-3-1. All right, 1-3-1 means one player on this extremity, 3 players towards the center of the map, and then 1 player towards this extremity. This is the ideal setup that you'll see on Haven for the most part. Okay, whether this is Sova or Jet opping doesn't really matter. Don't worry about specifics. We just want to talk about macro and how the map is viewed. Okay, now, so if we're able to get this deep line here and this deep line here, if the Sova gets pushed off of this deep line, that means that the Sova has to move onto site. And if the Sova moves onto site, he's now lost all information. Okay? The information that he had was whether or not teams were pressuring or getting past this line. And so, what happens if teams are unable to get past this line here, this white line? That means that Sova has full control of A. And when Sova has full control of A, it limits the amount of options that the attack side has on hitting the site. They can't go short if Sova has the cross. Okay? So this allows his teammates, Sova's teammates, to then play 1-3-1 and play more. And by the way, it's not 3 guys on B. It's more 1 person here, 1 person backside B or in the link, and then 1 person here. Okay, so generally this is what you'll see, but I'll mark this down as a 1-3-1. So 3 being towards the middle of the map, right? So, guys, the focus here on both extremities, get the deep line. Okay, however you need to do it, just do it. Lots of teams will, shoot a Sova dart into a main. They will ask Breach to stun a main, and then Omen will smoke deep lobby. Okay, now you have the A line. Okay, and now what attack siders will do is they will smoke off bricks. They will smoke this off. You'll see this a lot in ranked. You'll see this a lot in VCT. Other teams, teams started running Viper. They would do the Viper wall here that gets the cross so that Sova can no longer see the A line. So now you have to send a second person over to fight A with Sova. All right, and so hopefully you guys can understand the importance of the deep line. And so when teams are fighting for the deep line when you're on attack and they're on defense, it's important to know how to push them off and how to eliminate the information that they have. If you can do that, you force this player to either play nested in sight or ask for support. And so when this player feels pressured and loses information and loses their positional advantage in the deep line, they ask for support. And so this rotation comes in now, and Jet comes to A. And now Breach is playing in C-Link. Okay? And now Killjoy is playing kind of like towards B. And now Omen is on an island. Okay? So do you see how this 1-3-1 that was just like this or like this has now shifted into a kind of, if we go left to right, a 1-2-2. Or even a 1-1-3 in a sense. Okay? And so this is how the macro of the map is viewed. All right, guys. Heavy prioritization of the deep lines on defense with the ideal scenario of setting yourself up in a 1-3-1 on defense in the mid round so that no matter what site the enemy goes to, we have early information on the extremities so that our 3x pack or rotational pack can then shift over to the pressure to at least fight before the bomb gets down. If you let the enemy team get the bomb down on this map, retake can be really, really hard, especially if they have a Breach that has Blast and potentially has their stun back, or if they have Omen Blind. It can be kind of a nightmare. Even on C, it's really hard to play to retake because you have to deal with the spike being planted here. Teams can spam from long, okay? Same thing on B. If teams get the bomb down, teams can spam from front B. They can be bottom here. They can be in window. They can be here. They can rewrap garage, and certain comps can blast the bomb, from garage, play mollies. So it's really, really important to try to set yourself up in this 1-3-1 flood setup. And yeah, this is how the macro of the map is viewed. Now, there's another thing that's very important, and I want to bring, and I want you guys to realize too, before I move on to the next thing, see the similarities here on Lotus. This is another 3 bomb site map. What are teams so focused on defense? They want to fight for the A control so that they can set Omen or Raze up on this A line so that they can then rotate the masses or the rotational bunch into the middle of the map so then they can flood to C or fight B or continue fighting A. Okay? Same thing here. The smoke, teams will one-way smoke this and then fight for C mound. They want information on the extremities, guys. It's really, really important on these 3 bomb site maps that we can control some of the space on the extremities to limit the options for the enemy, okay? And that's why if you flip the script and you look at attack side, what do we see a lot of times in VCT? We see this Viper Wall. This Viper Wall kind of destroys the deep line. And by the way, just to be clear, it's not just about getting somebody up to rubble sometimes. Sometimes it's somebody jump spotting here or here. This Viper Wall destroys the line for the Omen, putting a lot of pressure on the Omen, making it really uncomfortable for his players in the middle of the pack to stay in their positions, forcing him to get onto site or forcing them to play hard retake and play together. Okay, so I wanted you guys to really visualize the similarities between the 3 bomb site maps. Sorry, this Viper Wall is a little scuffed. It should be a little bit further like this. And yeah, that's really the important thing. And if you can do this, guys, you can draw similarities between maps. You set yourself up for a lot of success. Okay. The other thing that's really important on Lotus is on attack side. If you go, usually on attack side, you want to start the rounds by listening for the util on A, because it'll tell you what the enemy team is doing on defense. And so lots of teams have more of a reactive style to calling on this map. They will read the util over here. If the Raze throws a nade, if the Fade throws a seize, if the Omen throws a blind, they instantly know that 3 people are at A. So let's just go C. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Okay. The path of least resistance on 3 bomb site maps is usually the one that you want to venture towards. Okay. Now let's go back to Haven. Let's talk about it. All right. So if teams are setting up this A line and they dart here, they smoke here, and they breach stun deep, which is very common, by the way, like this, generally that means that there's one player here, and there's sometimes either a jet short and there's a breach here. So that's 3 people towards A. This is what we usually see, okay? So jet here, breach here. So generally, the path of least resistance will be heading towards garage. And so if I pull up all of the chokes that I was drawing before, garage leads to a choke here and a choke here, and then we have B, which is a single choke, and we have A, which is a double, okay? So we have single, double, single, double, okay? So A control on attack side is very important because it gives us more options. Garage control is also very important because it gives us more options. But garage control is important for other reasons, and that's because generally your sentinel player, at least in the past, your killjoy would be playing here with a turret. Now, things might change a little bit now because of the vision cone of the turret. You might have to play your turret over here or over here, right? And you might have to play your alarm bot in front B, and you might just have to have eyes on this. But generally, if people were fighting for A in the previous meta, that means that you would speed up garage and you would try to break the sentinel util, because there's one thing on 3 bomb site maps that is insanely important on defense. It's to make sure that we have control of as many of the chokes as possible. And so to do this, sentinel utility is very, very important. If we don't have our sentinel utility up, we aren't able to prioritize fighting. And we want info on as many choke points as possible because we have a lot of choke points to cover. Does that make sense? So sentinel utility being up and available helps us really understand where we need to position ourselves on defense. If we don't have it up, it puts a lot of pressure on people on the extremities to play a little bit different. So the guy, if Killjoy loses his util, now we have to put more emphasis towards B, right? We have to put a body here. We need to put a body here. And we can't just rely on this solo A person, so on the A line. So really what teams like to do is they like to go, if you start heavy A on attack side or on defense and you set up the A line, they will go kill your Killjoy turret and break your alarm bot front B. And then they'll head back and push your Sova off the A line. Okay, so now what happens is the Sova falls back nested, the jet comes over for assistance or the breach, and now we have to play with Omen solo C, and we have Killjoy on B and breach over in A link. Hopefully this makes sense to you guys. Hopefully you're starting to understand the macro of the map a little bit. It is really hard to play this map in ranked on defense, but hopefully these tips help you guys out a little bit. If you have any questions at all, or I'll probably do another video on this once the map actually releases, because there might be a change or two that happens. But hopefully this helps you guys understand how the map is played on defense for the most part. Comps will change, but a majority of the time, the more important thing is deep lines here on the extremities, sentinel util towards the middle, and we're trying to set up in a 1-3-1 flood setup on defense. If you guys have any questions about this at all, or have any interest in potentially booking private sessions with me to discuss map macro, please shoot me a message. Add me on Discord down below, and I'd love to help you guys out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one.